Can you imagine having your home paid for the last 20 years and then all of a sudden in the mail you get a letter that says you're being evicted. You're no longer allowed in your own home.
Expiration of lease and notice to vacate. The park owner saying in the letter, either leave or sell your home.
This story is not an isolated one. This has been happening to many Americans across the United States. It's been going on for years, and it only has been increasing almost to a fever pitch over the last year. Many of the news clips that you're going to see in this video today are just from the last 6 months. Today, we're going to find out why many Americans are being forced to abandon their homes. And I'm going to be showing you some states that actually have protections for people that live in manufactured home parks so this doesn't happen to them. And of course, we're going to be talking about what can be done today to help these people so they don't become homeless. Whether you live in a manufactured home or not, this is one of those things that us as a community can work together to help everyone.
A mobile home park sold its land, then ordered families who bought homes to move out in 6 months or less.
I have to tell you, that was probably one of the nicest timelines I've heard when it comes to people being evicted from their mobile home park. That does give them a good space of time. 6 months is pretty good. Most of them are giving them only like 30 to 90 days. Which makes it the timeline too short for somebody to find somewhere else to live, especially with the affordability crisis here going on in the United States. If you haven't guessed yet who's the landlord and who's actually kicking them out, well, one of the biggest group of people that are buying up houses, you guessed it, is private equity.
The Independent Lincoln Institute estimates that about 1/5 of manufactured housing communities across the country have been purchased by investors in the previous 8 years.
Just like anything that involves private equity, they find the best way they can squeeze out as much money as possible. And whoever gets left in the dust, it doesn't matter as long as they can report back to their shareholders that they're making more money for them. Just like our healthcare system, just like nursing homes, and just like our HOAs, you know as well as I do, private equity has done nothing but make things worse. And when it comes to manufactured homes, they do it because they can make good money. You may not think this affects many Americans in the United States, but I want to remind you that over 20 million people live in manufactured housing. A good portion of those people living in manufactured homes are low income, and they don't have the ability to just pick up and buy themselves another home.
The park was bought by the new owner in December of 2023. In May, they received the eviction notice stating that the owner will be changing the 32-lot park from tenant-owned homes to landlord-owned homes.
You see what that private equity firm did right there? They gave them two options. Either you move your house or you sell it to us because we're no longer going to allow you to rent out the land underneath us. There is a big problem with this because if you live in a manufactured home park, what you're doing is you're just renting the land underneath it. The home itself, a lot of times, is owned by you. In some cases, yes, there are some rentals in manufactured home parks, but for the majority of people, they own the house. The land underneath it is rented. And then a lot of them that have lived in these parks for more than 30 years, those manufactured homes are so old, you can't move them. They'll fall apart when they're going down the road.
This thing would make it 5 miles down the road without falling apart.
And even if they did have the ability to move that home and it was older, it's going to cost them between $3,000 to $10,000, depending on how far it has to go down the road. And most of these people, like I said before, are low income. They don't have that kind of money in their pocket. Many of them are living paycheck to paycheck. And these landlords know that. They know that they'll just go ahead and sell them back the mobile home.
Josefina Arango has lived in her home with her husband and 3 kids for 11 years.
If they say we're closing the park, where do you take this?
Nowhere. I don't have another place.
Can I just tell you what's really going on here? The management company really does want them to abandon their homes. And you're probably thinking, why would they want a dilapidated or a mobile home? Well, there's a few reasons. One of them is they know for a fact that most people that live in these parks can't afford to move them. So they will have to abandon them. And there's no laws on the book in many of these states to stop them from doing so. So in turn, what do? They get themselves a free house that they're going to end up turning into rental properties. So then now they have people that used to own that house may have to rent that house from them.
The park owners conclude they can no longer economically operate the park based on measures taken by state and local government. That is a reference to recent laws and regulations establishing rent controls and eviction protections specifically for mobile home owners. Most units here are currently covered by rent control, and some believe the threatened closure is meant to scare people into voluntarily agreeing to pay more.
The private equity firms will turn around and say, well, we're going to go ahead and make these parks even better. We're going to repair the roads. We're going to update the plumbing systems. We're going to add more lighting. We may even add a tennis court and a pool. These people don't care about those things. They just want to be able to stay in their home. The second reason why a lot of these private equity firms want these residents out of there is because they know that they are going to raise the rent so incredibly high that they won't be able to afford it, or they plan on just going ahead and plowing out the whole manufactured home park and turning it into something else, whether that be an apartment complex or townhomes, anything that's going to provide them more money. Of course, it's going to be something that they're going to be able to rent, so it will give them more dividends to their shareholders so they can make more money. I will tell you, the private equity firms are telling people that they're really doing a service for the community, because a lot of these mobile home parks are in a state of disrepair. A lot of them haven't been maintained over time, and they say that they're improving the community overall, but really they're making a good portion of low-income families homeless. I found a really good article that talks about how advantageous it is to invest in mobile home parks. Okay, in this article is by LifeBridge Capital, and they're interviewing a guy named John Fruto. He said the whole reason why he started to invest in manufactured homes was the 2008 crisis. And he said he noticed during the 2008 recession, he was in a position with mobile homes that was not impacted heavily by the downturn. Noticed that contractors and home builders were losing projects and had trouble paying me. I mean, people lost their jobs, went through foreclosures, bankruptcies, but I was putting them right into places and filling up my spaces. They were jaded owning a single family home and looked around for affordable housing options and found mobile homes. I don't know if it's recession proof, but it's definitely well insulated. Insulated for the investor, not insulated for the person that's renting the space underneath it. He may be an ethical landlord, but a good portion of these private equity firms, as you know, are not. And they're more than willing to evict somebody if they want to clean up their park and take their house basically for free. The only cost to them is a few court documents and an eviction notice. He also goes on to say, he says, compared to apartment buildings, mobile home parks typically deliver high cash-on-cash renters due to the reduced costs in management and land facilities, including keeping the grounds clean and ensuring the roads are well maintained and providing all the amenities. I also like to reiterate the fact the main reason why these investors love them so much is there is no oversight over these communities and these landlords when it comes to renting the land. It's not like apartment buildings or condos or townhomes where you have renters protections. When you're renting the land, in most states, most of them, they do not have any protections whatsoever. It allows for them to have predatory practices and kick these people out of their homes, in turn making many of them homeless.
This, at the end of the day, means nothing.
The prospect for one party taking advantage over another is very high in these situations.
Now, not all states turn a blind eye when it comes to protecting people that live in manufactured home parks. Believe it or not, Delaware is one of those states, but their Mobile Home Act probably needs a good revamping. Florida is another state that has a Mobile Home Act. And I'm just going to give you an example of one of the things that's on it. So I'm going to show you something that's bad, and I'm going to show you something that's good when it comes to the one in Delaware. So this says, if you do not pay the amount of the lot rent that's due every month, the landlord can go to court and evict you, which is very similar to any kind of rental property. After the rent is 5 days late, the landlord must send you a letter stating that unless all rent is due is paid, the landlord will end the lease and take you to court. The letter must set a deadline giving you at least 7 days to pay. The law allows the landlord to request a payment in full, or you can be sued. And you're probably thinking, well, that doesn't sound that terrible, but let's be realistic. If you are living in an apartment complex, you get more than 5 days. Not only that, they give you a lot more time before they actually evict you. Even if you have, like, let's just say we're not talking about rent, let's just talk about credit cards. If you're 5 days late on a credit card, you just have to pay a little extra fee, and they don't like turn off your credit card. And we're talking about people's homes that they live in, many of them on fixed incomes. They're not even giving these people 30 days to evict. That's it. They're done. They have 5 days. They get a notice. They're going to court. That's crazy. But maybe I'm wrong about that. You let me know in the comments section. I will say this about this particular act in Delaware. It isn't all like leaning towards the landlord. It actually does have some tenant rights in the fact that if your landlord is being a total jerk and, finds out that you're trying to like sue them for some kind of illegal activity, and they try to do some kind of retaliation acts, like they cut off your power or they do anything kind of damage to your house, you can't file against them. And if you win in court, they have to pay you like 3 months rent and all the court fees that were involved in that if they are found guilty. So, I mean, at least they have that. I don't think this act nearly goes enough. It definitely has more landlord rights than it does tenant rights. Now, if you look in Florida, they have a mobile home act. It is 31 pages long. It reads like stereo instructions. Some of it was so much legalese, I was like, my eyes were crossing. But I will tell you this, there's 28 other states. And if you find yourself in this situation, whether a private equity firm is buying out your park or an individual investor that's buying out your park, please know your rights ahead of time. If you end up getting one of these letters in the mail, that doesn't mean that all hope is lost. Contact an attorney in the area. There's many nonprofit attorneys that will gladly take on these private equity firms, especially if they've done something illegal to evict you.
Earlier this month, residents received a letter headlined Notice of Potential Closure of Mobile Home Park. In it, the owners say they are exploring the option of converting the park.
Now, most people don't even realize that there are these laws in the book and that they do have protections. If you do happen to have this happen to you, contact a local attorney in your area to see if there is something you can do. And I know it sounds like it's going to be expensive, but I would get with all of your neighbors in your park and see if anything that they have done as far as evicting you is actually legal. The second thing I'm going to tell you to do is do exactly what all these people have done in all these news articles. Call your local news and see if they will report on this and show your story. You'd be surprised how many people in the community are going to be willing to help, especially if you're elderly and you don't have any other place to live. You'd be surprised how many people will open up their homes to you. I know the world seems like it's very cruel right now, but you'd be surprised how many people actually are there to help you out. If you are a senior and you are in a fixed income like Social Security, check with the Social Security office to see if they can do anything to help you as well. Oh, and if your park is up for sale and it hasn't been sold yet to a private equity firm, I want you to run, like turn off this video right now and go to a website called Rock USA. And they are a company that allows for the residents to turn into a co-op, and everybody has a share of the mobile home park in that park. I know that sounds absolutely crazy to you, but I'm telling you, they really do help out a lot of mobile home parks throughout the United States. If they're not able to help you in your state, I'm sure they can point you in the right direction to find another group that will help you purchase the park. And how that works is very similar to a condo association where everybody has part ownership of the park. So everything will be voted on. And they'll walk you through that whole entire process of purchasing the park. I know that you're on limited income and you probably think this is going to be way too expensive for you and the rest of the residents in that park to be able to afford to do this. They will point you in the right direction so it can happen for you. You'd be surprised on how many parks were actually turned into co-ops and were taken out of private equity's hands. And I love this for them. I love it. Anytime you can stick it to the man makes me feel really good, especially for people that have had the most predatory practices against them. Whenever you are poor, I'm telling you that you have the worst loan terms and you get the shortest end of the stick.
I live here because I'm poor, and this was the best I could manage. And I still have a mortgage on top of paying him lot rent. So I'm paying almost $900 a month.
One more thing you can do, even if you don't happen to live in a manufactured home in a manufactured home park, all of us can do this. And that's to contact local politicians. They're the ones that put the laws on the books and we're the ones who pay them. And they should be representing us fairly, especially the people that are the most need of our help. You have to remember, a lot of these people that live in these parks are low income, elderly, fixed income. These are the people that are working 2 jobs at McDonald's just to make ends meet. This is our opportunity to help them. We should be calling our politicians and asking them what laws we could do to protect them so they're not thrown out on the streets and they're not homeless. This is an election year. This is the things that they're supposed to be running on. For once, why don't we do something to help the people that need us the most and vote in the right people that are willing to do the work that needs to be done, not the politicians that are taking money for their campaigns from private equity. If you think that like fighting private equity doesn't work, and if you think that a lot of these politicians are working against us, I want to show you this article that came out of Montana, and it's actually something positive for people that live in manufactured home parks. Mobile home owners homeowners win Montana Supreme Court regarding evictions. They fought and they won. Before the conviction, it said that landlords could evict their tenants at the moment without a cause. Now, according to the Montana Supreme Court decision, they can't. David Lockhart and his wife have a home in Westview Mobile Home Park. A few years ago, they were evicted without warning. They want you gone. When they want you gone, you're gone. Often people that live in mobile homes don't have the resources to bring a case even to the district court, let alone the Montana Supreme Court. People can lose everything they have fought for going to trial. Mobile homes are extremely difficult. A lot of these homes aren't really mobile. They're moved there when they're new and they're put in place to stay there. It's hard to even find someone in Missoula that can do it. It can cost $10,000 to $25,000 there. The Justice Court judge ruled Westview was not required to have cause to terminate Lockhart's lease. The judge said the opposing counsel cannot just evict someone, giving them a 30-day notice. In the Montana Supreme Court ruling October 31st, it was ruled that landlords of mobile home parks cannot terminate a month-to-month leases without cause. Cause means you know that there just has to be a reason. They didn't pay their rent or violated park rules. Now there's precedent set for others facing no-cause evictions from mobile home parks, which may keep tenants in their homes. I hope that this happens in more areas across the United States. More people need to get together and start fighting these private equity groups that just decide one day that they're no longer going to allow for the park to have rented land, that they can all of a sudden just turn these people's homes, who've paid for their homes, by the way.
This was my first home I ever owned. You know, and it's sad because like everybody else, we can't afford to move them.
Many of them don't even have a mortgage, that they are now evicted because they're going to go ahead and turn that whole area into rental properties instead of people renting out the land underneath it. I know we don't like to tell people what they can do with properties that they own, but what they're doing is damaging people's lives, creating many of them to be homeless. We have an opportunity as citizens to vote for the people that are going to protect people that are living in these parks. Many of them are elderly, and many of them also are low income or fixed income.
We got people in here on fixed incomes. They can't afford to move their trailers out. They're going to lose their homes.
But you let me know in the comment section below. Do you think that these companies like BlackRock and Blackstone and Carlyle Group are doing all of this to make a better community all the way around? Or do you think something needs to get done about it before it gets even more out of hand? You just let me know in the comments section below. To watch more videos about mobile home parks here in the United States, you're going to want to watch these videos right here. My name is Kristina Smallhorn, your real estate whisperer, and I tell you all this because good real estate information matters.